Hi there, and welcome back to another review. Today's film is Him, marketed as a sport horror film. It's taking two concepts that I really enjoy, football and horror. You would think by combining both of these, you would strike gold, and I would come out of this film really enjoying it. However, this movie fails at being a sports film and it also fails at being a horror film. So, yeah, I definitely did not like this movie. Now, before I begin and talk about the movie more, I want to stop you right there. This review may contain spoilers, but just want to let you know so you're well aware. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about the positives that I have before jumping into the negatives. So, some positives. The first positive that comes to mind is this film does have moments of body horror, and it does at times show the brutality of the sport. There are certain perspectives in which the camera is changed where you see the internal damage done. You see like the bones colliding when there's tackles, and you just see very, very early on, there's a scene where the main protagonist, Cameron Cade, is watching football and watching his idol, and his idol breaks his leg. So, from the very beginning of this film, you see glimpses of body horror, you see just the brutality of what the sport can be, and you see like different camera angles showing the damage that can take and be done internally. Unfortunately, these scenes are few, far, and in between. If you're expecting a body horror film, this is not a movie that's going to meet those expectations. Instead, the movie is, well, a bit of a mess. Before I get to the negatives, let's talk about another positive I had, which is the main protagonist, Trevante Rhodes, as Cameron Cade. He definitely brings the physicality to this role. He's believable as a quarterback. However, with the script that he has, that he's provided, he can only do so much. His character is very one noted. He's not a character that you'll remember much when you finish this film. And that's really sad and that's really unfortunate because this film had so much potential and it had so many different directions it could have gone and so many deeper key themes that it could have tackled in a more focused and more meaningful manner. Unfortunately, let's go ahead and talk about the negatives. The first negative is the fact that this movie has ambiguity that borders on obscurity. You see, this film plays around with the supernatural. There are moments throughout this film where you, as the audience, and through Cameron Cade's perspective, you're meant to question whether or not things are actually happening. You see Cameron early on gets hit in the head pretty hard. It takes him out of the combine and it sets him on this unfortunate journey. And like I said, there are just so many moments where it's like the film goes into supernatural, but then it goes back to his head injury. Like, is it really happening? Is it supernatural? It's never quite clear and it just ends up being confusing. Additionally, the story lacks direction. It's a definite missed opportunity. The movie tries to be deep and thought provoking and brings up matters such as the idolization of athletes, the way families and coaches push kids into football like it's a religion, and how young talent gets chewed up and spit out by the system. These are all heavy stuff, heavy topics, and all of it is very real. And you can find moments where this is taking place in the US. But the film just kind of throws these things out there and never really fully explores them or gives them time and needed attention. So it just feels like a huge and missed opportunity. The film had so much to say, but never says anything. And this, of course, brings me to the ending. The final act gets bloody, it's chaotic, but it's not really satisfying. Cameron ends up killing his idol, the people running the Saviors football program, his agent. Well, kind of. His agent is supernaturally murdered. I think it's a bit vague and not in a cool, mysterious way. It's just a messy and unclear. So yeah, another nitpick I had, well, more of a nitpick than negative, is the fact that this movie mostly takes place in a NFL compound or his idol's compound, and the movie doesn't fully explore this. So while the movie takes place here, it leaves a lot more to be answered for. And the movie goes nowhere, anywhere fast, and it just takes its time and drags and drags and drags. In the end, him started with such promise and intrigue, but ultimately failed to live up to his premise in an interesting or fulfilling way. The film had interesting themes of power dynamics and sports between the owners and the players, while ultimately proposing the question, how much are you willing to sacrifice for the things that you want? And had moments intertwined with the limits of the human body, intertwined with some of the supernatural elements. But unfortunately, what the film ultimately is an incoherent mess with themes and topics that aren't given the time to breathe, to be explored in a meaningful way. And so as the movie ends, you're just left thinking to yourself, what did I just watch? And unfortunately for me, this film landed at a 1 out of 5 stars. It's a film that, as the credits began to roll, I regretted purchasing a ticket. And very few films do that for me. But unfortunately, this film was one of those films. But yeah, that's the review for me. How about you? Did this movie meet at exceeding your expectations, or were you left desiring something more, something different, and something a little bit more profound? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Film Sense with Brian.